Cyberpunk 2077 is a fantastic narrative game that is marred by a pool of technical issues. But what happens when the narrative, the very aspect the game is supposed to excel at, becomes a weakness? Unfortunately, that appears to be the case for Cyberpunk's romance narrative. Also, minor spoilers ahead for those who do not want to know. Currently, the base number of romanceable characters is 4. Only 4. To make matters worse, Cyberpunk 2077 has sold itself on the fact that this game was all about player choice. And yet, unless you are bisexual, many players, including myself, find that there is no real choice when it comes to romance. For male V, you get the quote-unquote choice of being with either Pa-nam or Kerry, 1 male and 1 female. For female V, you get either Judy and River, also just 1 male and 1 female. So essentially, if you are a straight male, you only get to be able to have the option to romance just 1 person. 1 person out of the entire cast of Night City. Where is the choice in that? Now, I understand and appreciate that CD Projekt Red probably spent a lot of time designing and fleshing out these characters and their narrative, probably opting for a few quality romance narratives over quantity. But that still doesn't excuse how that there is essentially no choice for romance in a game heavily advertising player choices. While restarting the game and playing as the opposite gender of one's initial playthrough is a viable way of romancing the character you want to romance, this kind of hassle shouldn't even be a problem to begin with. Imagine clocking in hours and hours of your time only to realize that you have to restart and create a new save file just so you could have the experience you want. Not to mention, it can be quite immersion breaking to have to play as the opposite gender you relate to. It's interesting to see a straight man complain about not being able to romance Judy. As a gay man who's had to play games with either no or very limited romance options for us, oftentimes I would have to play as a female character just so I'd be able to immerse myself in the experience that more closely resembles my personal identity. Let's just say I understand the pain wholeheartedly. What CD Projekt Red should have done is to make each character romanceable for each iteration of V, essentially making all romance options bisexual. The thing that should have mattered when it comes to romancing said characters is V's ethical and narrative choices in the game. The characters should solely be attracted to V's choices in the game. Now, you could argue that making the characters gay/straight or only being attracted to V if they have a certain physical appearance is what makes the game more realistic. After all, in real life, people have certain preferences and a set sexual orientation, right? The thing is, at the end of the day, this is a game. A game meant to be an escape from the real-world phenomenon of being rejected for one's physical appearance. Now, I think I risk sounding like an absolute loser or a simp by saying this, but hear me out. Imagine being able to establish a romantic connection with someone based not on one's physical attributes, but instead on one's character. That sort of thing is much more easily achievable in a video game than it is in real life. In fact, it is one of the only mediums in the world that can immerse someone to such a degree. Imagine just how powerful it would be if, in Cyberpunk, the key determining factor for romance for the characters is the actual decisions you make in the game. Isn't it more powerful if a character falls in love with these characters' character, regardless of what they looked like? There's little point in making it harder for players to enjoy your game. As a gay man, I am especially tired of not being able to romance the character I like in my main playthrough, and I'm instead forced to romance the one token gay main character. I'm still happy and appreciative that there is gay romance in the game, but still, after almost a decade, I'm still disappointed. I was expecting so much more from Cyberpunk, and while I'm appreciative of the effort that they've put into creating Kerry, I can't help but feel like there could have been just so much more.